The full episode is now available on Patreon and YouTube memberships. Please see the link in the description for more details.
Which reminds me, like, we got to talk about, before I let you go, House of Le Dragoon. Thinking back on it now, a year later, needed at least 2 more episodes. I know 12 is not a prime number.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I would rather them, like, you know, have, like, even numbers, but, like, I needed 2 more episodes. 6 in the past, 6 in the future.
So here's the thing that's in between House of the Dragon ending and now. I mean, we have watched House of the Dragon again, but the thing that's also changed is I've gone through Fire and Blood a lot in a more detailed fashion for my overanalyzing series, and having gone through that source material again, I appreciate Ryan Condal and the writers so much more, because there's, like, going through, there's so many plot holes to a lot of Fire and Blood, because there's a lot of Fire and Blood that George really phoned in, and I'm not mincing words here. Like, he did a bad job on a lot of parts of the source material. I'll give you an example. Just but for instance, take the Daemon Velaryon, like his petition. Okay, so in the source material, he just, like, makes his petition, or he just, like, claims the land, and then Rhaenyra and Daemon, like, go behead him and feed him to a dragon, and then his family comes to King's Landing and tries to make their claim, and they all get their tongues cut out. Okay, and you kind of sit there and go, well, why would they do that? Like, that's not even explained. Like, they're not even in a line of succession. Like, this makes no sense. Like, because Baela and Rhaena, like, would come before them. Even if you were gonna disqualify Jace, Luke, and Joffrey, like, Baela and why would these random cousins who would each come even later and later in succession, like, get their tongues cut out, but, like, Vaemon's children don't, and, like, even though they're ahead and did the same thing, like, there's so many little plot holes where you're just like, this doesn't make any sense at all. Like, why are they even doing this? And Ryan Condal, like, created an entire, or the writers created an entire plot that, like, made sense. They made Viserys be sick, and they made Alicent the ruling person, so that the Velaryons thought that it doesn't matter that the succession's screwed up, she's going to rule in my favor because she's the one really ruling. Like, they added this extra little plot hole. They added this extra little thing to fix George's plot hole from massive plot hole from Fire and Blood. And there's just a lot of situations like that. I mean, another one is, like, how did Laena get control of Vhagar? Like, they fixed that plot hole. You know, that was in the story. It's never explained in Fire and Blood. This, like, why Laena somehow got the most powerful dragon in the world. Oh, we're just gonna gloss over that. Well, you know, they like, at least they made an attempt to, like, write some, you know, backstory to it. And so there's a lot of that where I go.
Wait, the backstory in House of the Dragon was that Vhagar was on Driftmark, and that Laena.
Yeah, they first established that Vhagar was too big for the dragon pit, which is not true in the source material. So they're like, okay, he's too big for the dragon pit, and he just happens to be hunting on Driftmark, and so she's like interested in him, and so when we find her atop, like, riding him, it's not too shocking. Like, you know, it was somewhat explained.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they, you know, while in the source material, there's no explanation. Like, why is Vhagar not in the dragon pit? How did Laena get him? Like, none of that is explained. There's, like, plus there's more tension between the Velaryons and Viserys in the source material. So it's like, why would Viserys hand over the most powerful dragon in the world? and things like that. So I mean, there's a lot of those little plot holes that Ryan Condal fixes, and so I do like, a year later, I kind of appreciate that they spent so much time, going through the source material, like trying to make sense of it. Because it doesn't make sense.
He's a super fan. He's a super fan who's a fan of the material, saw the problem like you did, and decided to fix it. Dave and Dan did that with season 1 of Game of Thrones. It seems like the showrunner for Wheel of Time seems to be doing that. And their changes are fine. Even the showrunner for One Piece, which we just discussed. They did something very funny with Buggy the Clown, who is a pirate. In the anime, Buggy destroys Orange Town. But in the show, they change it up a bit. He still destroys Orange Town, but he also kidnaps all the citizens and forces them to be an audience in his circus. I thought that was a very neat, cool change. I loved it. Great. Phenomenal. Like, little changes like that, I'm okay with. You don't have to be super close to the source material, but still. But, like, looking back a year later on House of the Dragon, it needed that extra 6th episode to take place in the past. Now, I have an idea of what I would have done with it. Do you mind if I run it, like, spitball it back to you? Like, maybe we can go back and forth? Sure. So, my idea for this hypothetical episode 6 would be, takes place maybe a couple weeks or a month after Rhaenyra's wedding to Sir Laenor, and Alicent has gone back to Old Town to convene with her father, and Criston Cole has gone with her. Maybe on her way back to King's Landing, there's an incident where maybe they make a pit stop. Criston Cole gets ambushed by several men who were either family members or friends of Sir Joffrey Lonmouth, and they want revenge on Criston Cole, but Alicent steps in and stops them. These men aren't bandits, they aren't brigands, they're not thieves, they just want revenge, but Alicent is able to calm down the situation, and she and Criston Cole maybe have some sort of friendship blossoming because of that. Back in King's Landing, King Viserys is still bedridden after what happened a few weeks prior towards the end of Rhaenyra's wedding, and it's up to the Hand of the King to make sure everything runs smoothly. So of course he tells his son, Harwin Strong, to keep an eye on Rhaenyra. They spend some time together, maybe a romance blossoms, and that is actually laid out. Because, of course, Harwin Strong, before episode 6 in the actual show, he only got, 3 minutes, maybe, of screen time? We just needed that extra episode to really cement these alliances and these relationships that we get to see in the future. Like, why do Rhaenyra and Harwin Strong like each other so much? Maybe he likes spicy, feisty women, and she has that in spades. Criston Cole and Alicent, are they really only besties now because of their hatred for Rhaenyra? There's gotta be more to why Criston is so devoted to Alicent. Yeah. Maybe on their trip to Old Town, he sees how devoted to the faith she is, and him being a super faith fan, super faithful religious person all of a sudden, I guess, he really likes that. So they just needed one more episode to cement these relationships so it didn't feel awkward and weird when we fast forward to the future and all of a sudden it happened all off screen. And that's my main problem with what we got. It all happened off screen, and it really should have been on screen.
The thing, again, House of the Dragon is not perfect, and the things wrong with season 1 are still pretty obvious in my mind, right? The beating to death of Joffrey Lonmouth and no resolution is a huge problem. Rhaenys coming through the floor shocker thing is a huge problem. And what was the other really bad one? The God mode Daemon is a big problem. There's definitely some big problems. And they still remain problems. Those are some hard, bad, shocking ones, but you're right that another huge problem and another huge weakness was the shortchanging of Harwin Strong and creating the relation, establishing that relationship. They needed an episode focused on Harwin and Rhaenyra. They needed that because if you're going to kill Harwin, killing Harwin means nothing because we don't even know who he is. You killed this guy I didn't know. that's a problem. That's a big problem. And you're right. There needed to be another episode between 5 and 6 to deal with the Kristen Cole situation, like the Kristen Cole fallout, and to establish a romance between Rhaenyra and Harwin. That definitely needed to be there, and that would have solved a lot of problems. But
Well, that's my hypothetical
at least,
6. Like, Alicent and Kristen Cole spending time. Maybe she goes to her father in Old Town and tells him what's up. Meanwhile, in King's Landing, Rhaenyra and Harwin, that forms. The only thing I don't know what to do is with Daemon and Laena, because I wanted that to be more established as well. And they kind of tried doing that in episode 6, but there wasn't enough time because you have to catch the audience up of what happened with Rhaenyra and Alicent during the time skip. How there's still like friction there. There needed to be like more Laena.
If you expanded that out, I think that's the biggest weakness. Like, had you had an episode an episode 5.5 or made episode 6 2 episodes, that would have been better. But what would now, you said 2 more episodes. Is there one other place that you'd like more time spent?
In the future, there has to be something between there has to be something between Laena's funeral and maybe the Vaemon trial or the Vaemon petition. Maybe, I don't know. Like, where would you?
I mean, in the same sense of like, there's the Hunt episode where it's an invented event. I think you'd need some sort of invented event to fill time, to give more character time to the finally grown up Aegon, the finally grown up Aemond. You don't even, it doesn't have to be a collecting of all the characters like at a funeral, but or the dinner or anything like that. But it would have been nice to have an episode where those characters in their adult forms are finally fleshed out before you have the showdown, I guess, in the last 2 episodes between them. I think that would have probably improved things.
I agree. Yeah,
I'm trying to think like what they would have done. Something where you have Luke, like, you might as well, like, you could have, if you had like an episode where you just like, say you sent Luke and Jace to the north for a diplomatic visit, just because, and had an episode like that focused a little bit on them, and then if something that where Aemond and something where like Aegon is trying to show off the city to Aemond, and you get to know how different the characters are. Like anything like that would have somewhat worked. Just something to fill in the time, something to just build, like, because we're introduced to so many characters. Even though these are old characters, they're new characters,
The best placement would be right before the Vaemon petition, I feel like. So between Aemon claiming Vhagar and the Vaemon petition, where in that episode, I guess you could have like Kristen Cole finally teaching Aemon how to sword fight and all that stuff now that he has his dragon, and maybe it could also be the start of Alicent having Aegon and Helena getting together and rejecting like marriage proposals, and maybe we see Aegon in the fucking streets of King's Landing, and somehow insert Mysaria in there. That she barely has 5 minutes of screen time. Like something. God
something.
Damn.
You're right. Like something to give Mysaria more time. I mean, and it could have been anything. It could have been, somebody's learning how to fly their dragon. Somebody's you're Aegon tries to bring Aemond to a pit fight. Daemon has to go in and steal and try to get dragon eggs, and it's a little more dangerous because he's like trying to he runs into cannibal or something. Like anything. Jace and Luke go on a diplomatic mission to the north. It could have been anything. Or they send Aemond and Aegon to Weiss in order to do diplomacy with the Triarchy or something. There's a million things that you could do. Daron, there's Daron is sent to Old Town.